On behalf of the Peter Hathaway Capstick Hunting Heritage Award Committee and Ms. Fiona Capstick, today we have the privilege of celebrating this year's prestigious winner. This award recognizes an individual or organization with significant contribution to the conservation of wildlife and the promotion of our hunting heritage. Mr. Keck has been a pillar of North American conservation for over 40 years. His leadership over the National Wild Turkey Federation helped to shape, build, and mold the organization into a preeminent organization focused on conservation, restoration, hunter education and recruitment, and hunter advocacy. Most recently, Rob served as Director of Conservation for Bass Pro Shops and also served as Chairman of the Board for the Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium, educating untold numbers of the public about the important role that hunters and anglers play in wildlife conservation. Rob has played critical roles in the shaping of policy and legislation across the United States, personally meeting with policymakers and U.S. presidents and serving on numerous prestigious boards, including DSC's Conservation Advisory Board. We will hear more about Rob's achievements in the following video, but please join me in congratulating Mr. Rob Keck.
To us, it's simple. Without firearms, there would be no hunting. Without hunting, there would be no conservation. And without conservation, there would be no wildlife. In our case, the wild turkey. These ringing words of common sense and truth were spoken by Rob Keck, known by some as the godfather of the North American wild turkey, and one of the most respected and honored forces for the hunter conservationist cause in North America over the last 4 decades.
Growing up in southeastern Pennsylvania back in the 50s, my dad, my granddad, and uncles and cousins were great influencers to me on the outdoors. We hunted, we fished, we trapped, and it was the wild turkey that really captured my attention. You know, at the age of 13, I was able to take my first gobbler, and that led me on a path through turkey calling championships and then on eventually to the National Wild Turkey Federation. And during those 3 decades that I was there, I learned so much about the conservation ethics of this country and around the world. And after I ended my time there, my good friend Johnny Morris, the founder of Bass Pro Shops, invited me to be part of his conservation efforts through the Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium there in Springfield, Missouri.
As Chief Executive Officer of the National Wild Turkey Federation, Rob directed and fueled the return of the wild turkey to not only the United States of America, but also to Mexico and Canada. Over the decades, his hands-on leadership skills helped generate almost $750 million for conservation, wildlife restoration, youth and hunter education programs, improvement of habitat over more than 14 million acres, acquisition of public land, vigorous hunter advocacy, and the development and implementation of outreach programs not only for the youth, but also for women and for those people with disabilities. A great family man with an all-inclusive, empathetic attitude to life. Rob's founding of the exceptionally successful Families Afield initiative has welcomed more than 2.5 million hunters since its inception in 2004.
Working for the wild turkey, the wise conservation and management of the wild turkey led to its restoration. But important, and so many times often overlooked, was that hunting heritage had to be listed as part of the conservation message, because without hunting, you can't have conservation. And we saw the need to to engage children, women, people with disabilities, and then to advocate through radio, television, and print.
It is inevitable that a man of this tenacity and purpose would influence conservation and natural resource policy issues at the highest level of government. He served on the Sporting Conservation Council during President George W. Bush's administration, as well as being appointed as an alternate to the Hunting and Shooting Sports Conservation Council of the President Donald J. Trump administration.
One thing I clearly understood, that if we were going to advocate for conservation and for hunting heritage, we had to start at the top levels of government. Started, well, when I began with President Jimmy Carter, who, by the way, was an avid turkey hunter. Then from there, met with other presidents. George Herbert Walker Bush, another one, just an avid outdoorsman. Met with the Clinton administration, Vice President Gore and Secretary of Agriculture and Interior, talking about the importance of conservation and hunting. Then to George W. Bush, spent 13 different times with him, and of course with the Trump administration, so important, serving on the Sporting Conservation Council, working with Secretaries of Interior and Agriculture, and then passing one of the most important legislative pieces ever with the Great American Outdoors Act. But I had a chance to visit with people like, hunted with James Baker, another great Texan, another great American. Celebrities from all over, whether it was Hank Williams Jr. to NASCAR professionals, Olympic champions. We took that message to every place we could to magnify it so people would understand how important it is to the quality of life of all Americans. Hi, I'm Rob Keck of the National Wild Turkey Federation. Glad you could join us this week on Turkey Call.
A skilled communicator able to impart with passion the sizzle of conservation through hunting, Rob has produced and hosted award-winning shows, garnering among many awards 5 Golden Moose Awards and a North American Film and Video 4-Star Award. He has been hosting a weekly Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World radio program on rural radio Sirius XM since 2013. In a life replete with accomplishments for conservation, Rob was the first hunter to take a wild turkey in every state with wild turkeys, as well as in Canada, Mexico, Guatemala, and New Zealand. He also has the distinction of being a state, US Open, and World Turkey Calling Champion. In fact, in serving as Grand Marshal for the NASCAR Bass Pro Shops 500 race on 4 occasions, Rob not only delivered a conservation salute to America's hunters, but he also started the race on network television with a turkey call. An esteemed and sought-after judge of exceptional contributors to conservation and inducted into 4 halls of fame, culminating in his 2019 induction into the Grand National Hall of Fame during the National Wild Turkey Federation's annual convention, Rob Keck's community-mindedness also saw him named a Paul Harris Fellow by Rotary International in 2013. One of the most fitting accolades for this remarkable man was the Teddy Roosevelt Lifetime Conservation Achievement Award by the Sportsman for Fish and Wildlife, bestowed on Rob in 2015. A half-hour television special on Rob was created by the Outdoor Channel's Circle of Honor to salute, and I quote, "outstanding contributions toward preserving our outdoor traditions," unquote. When Peterson's Hunting magazine named him in 1998 as one of hunting's most influential personalities of the 20th century, unquote, for his, quote, "total dedication to our outdoor heritage and your unique ability to raise the combined consciousness of avid sportsmen and non-hunters alike," unquote, Rob Keck's sterling character and lifetime of service were succinctly summed up.
for conservation to become a reality, you have to be able to fund it. And the dollars that are so important have to be found from many, many different points of the compass. We look at it through hunters' dollars, through license sales, through excise taxes on firearms, ammunition, related equipment. But there's people that have to dig deeply into their pockets to help support this, because for us to achieve our conservation mission, we have to be profitable. And to be profitable, we have to understand that we are not just in the conservation business, but actually in the business of conservation, to take those profits to invest them for the future of our children, the future of wildlife, the future of conservation, and the future of our hunting heritage.
May the call of the wild turkey, the bugle of the elk, the clashing of antlers and horns of deer and wild sheep, the roar of the lion, the trumpeting of the elephant, the scream of the bald eagle, and the music of wildlife ring out across our vast wildlands and around the world forever and a day. You know, a century ago, in many parts of this nation and across North America, wildlife was almost gone. And today, yes, today, it's back in some cases like never before. We live in the golden years of hunting and wildlife. And on this continent, there's no other place like it. But that's not true everywhere. Hunters are the unsung heroes of conservation, and their commitment and their money, along with their support professional wildlife science and management, they've made a huge difference in bringing us into the golden age of wildlife and hunting. As we look to the future, it will be hunters that will carry the conservation movement forward and will drive the economic engine that is without match. We as hunters have a huge task ahead of us in preserving this hunting heritage. And what a tremendous hunting heritage we have, yet have so much more to do in preserving it and passing it on to all those that come after us. I'm truly honored, and I just want to say good evening to each and every one of you, and I'm so truly honored by this recognition of the Capstick Award. Thank you, Dallas Safari Club, and thank you so very much for what you have bestowed upon me here this evening. This award, it means so much more than you could ever imagine. Its name, the organization that's presenting it, the past recipients, and most of all, its recognition of the importance of our hunting heritage. But also, this award, it honors the memory of a great man, an outstanding man whose writings captured his love and his passion of the hunt, his respect for and understanding of wildlife and wildlands, and at the same time promoting our great hunting legacy, the conservation of our wildlife resources, and so much more. And may the legacy and the impact of Peter Hathaway Capstick live on forever and a day. Well, that being said, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for his loving grace and being with me every step of the way, many times in some very far off places, in some of the most treacherous of high mountain reaches, chasing wild sheep, mountain goats, bears, moose, but maybe most importantly, my dreams. Thank you, Corey Mason, Dallas Safari Club, and Richard Cheatham, Dallas Safari Club Foundation, for this huge and very humbling honor, acknowledging the importance, recognizing that importance of our hunting heritage. You know, the prestige that goes along with this award, it's beyond compare. The credibility, the respect of these two leading organizations, it's acknowledged worldwide, and it adds, well, it just adds tremendously to this award's recognition. Fiona Capstick, oh wow, what a joy it's been to work with you and in celebrating and honoring the legacy of Peter. I know that he's so very proud of you as you are of him. But Fiona, you're a remarkable lady, and you're such a dynamic force for hunting and its future. I just want to thank you. Thank you so very much for keeping that dream alive. I also want to thank my mom and my dad for their love, their inspiration, support, in allowing me to live out and follow my dreams. Their spirit, it's with me always, and that spirit has stood as a guiding lights in so many of the decisions that I've made through life. I just also, it would go without saying, want to thank my lovely wife, Susan. Honey, I love you, and I thank you for putting up with me. You know, the number of times that I came home from a hunt and dumped out a duffel bag full of dirty clothes, well, it's incalculable. But let me tell you, so lovingly appreciated. I could not have accomplished what I have done over these years without you. You were part of this award. You've been my loving partner for over 40 years, and your support of my family is, well, it's been truly amazing. I could not and would not be standing here without your love, your patience, and understanding. Regrettably, in those early days and weeks and years of building the National Wild Turkey Federation, being on the road and away from my wife and the girls, I sacrificed important family time as our federation, its team, we created a culture and we built an organization that helped restore the wild turkey all across North America, but even more importantly, made huge strides in preserving our hunting heritage. Lord knows I've been trying to make it up to Susan and the kids ever since. And I think I've probably fallen short. Susan, I love you and I thank you. And to all of you watching, I would just want to salute you, the conservation warriors around this world, the volunteers of hunting and conservation groups that have served as examples and mentors to so many. I accept this award on your behalf, and I salute you for carrying forth and helping preserve this very precious hunting heritage. As Ronald Reagan once said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream, and it must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same. Our freedom to hunt is no different. It must be fought for, must be protected, and handed on for them to do the very same. Well, there's a piece that I have with me that represents the greatest conservation tool known to man. It's generated billions of dollars for wildlife conservation, education, and management since 1937. And in the hands of responsible and ethical hunters, it has managed wildlife populations and fed growing nations for many generations. As I stated at the opening of this intro video, as well as having shared it with President George W. Bush right before he signed the Lawful Commerce and Arms Act into law, I said, without firearms, there would be no hunting. Without hunting, there would be no conservation. And without conservation, there would be no wildlife. Let us together, Dallas Safari Club and Dallas Safari Club Foundation, do our part. Really dig deeply into our pockets, dig deeply into the earth to preserve this rich hunting heritage and carry forth the challenge and the spirit of this, the Peter Hathaway Capstick Hunting Heritage Award, so that our children and their children and those yet to come can enjoy the passion and the thrill and the beauty of the hunt. I want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you for answering the call. That call to conservation and protecting our sacred hunting, fishing, and trapping heritage. Again, thank you for this recognition And may God bless each and every one of you. And may God bless America.